Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a project video for you today. I am going to be making some beads from paper, some little paper beads, and I thought I would show you this process. I'm making these for some journals that I'm in the middle of making, and so I thought I would just show you my process. There's a lot of different ways that you can do this, but I thought I would just take you along for the ride today. So I will put you on fast forward and we'll get started making some paper beads. Okay, so first let's talk tools and what you're going to need for this project. So I have pulled some pattern paper. You could use 12 by 12 sheets if you want. I'm just not gonna make my beads that thick, and my daughter was really wanting some in a specific color range, this one right here. So I'm gonna do some of these. I have some By the Well for God paper, and then this is just a paper, like a scrapbooking paper. So you can kind of use really anything. The busier the pattern actually is, you get more interest when you roll the bead. So you're definitely going to want that. I have a tool. I actually bought this online from an Etsy shop. And it's good because it has a little slit in here, so you can put your strip of paper in there. There's other ways that you can do that. This just makes it super, super simple. But if you don't have that, one of the things you can use is like a popsicle stick, and you can just roll your paper around there. You just have to be careful when you first get it started that you're getting, that you're not folding the paper. But you can certainly use something like this, or if you're an old school crafter, or you are into quilling at all, they have quilling tools, which they also have that little slit in there to kind of grip your paper so that you can start it. The only thing I've noticed with the quilling is that it's just a little bit shorter, this piece right here. You can see the length. So for like longer beads and stuff, it's hard to use these. It kind of helps to get it started, but I just find them much easier with this particular tool. Again, not necessarily, but at the same time, I think it was somewhere between like $8 and $12. So if you're planning to make a lot of beads, that might be something that is worth it to you. And then to finish them, there's a few different options as well. You're also going to need some glue as well. I'm going to use Bearly Arts precision glue for mine. And then to finish it, to kind of give it that bead look, or that, shiny look, there's a couple of different things that you can do. You could use glossy accents if you wanted. Mod Podge has a product called Dimensional Magic that you can also, it's very similar to glossy accents that you can kind of use too. To me, these are a little bit more of a difficult way to do it because it takes them so long to dry, and I'm kind of impatient, but you could certainly do that if this is what you have on hand. You can absolutely just kind of coat these and then kind of prop them up and let them dry. I would recommend like putting them on a little popsicle stick in some styrofoam so that they can just kind of sit there and dry. You don't want to obviously lay them down, but we'll kind of get into that. But what I'm going to use actually is some Versamark embossing ink and some embossing powder. Now you could use just regular clear embossing powder, but I'm going to be using this, which is ultra thick embossing enamel. The crystals are just a lot bigger, and so you get a thicker finish on it. And so I like using this for this project. But again, if you had the just regular clear embossing, you could do that, and you could even build up the layers as much as you wanted to kind of get the look that you want. So I think that's it. I'm also going to put down probably my nonstick mat, just so I don't get everything everywhere. And then of course, if you're going to be doing it this way, you're going to need a heat gun as well. And then another option, if you want to finish the beads, are some eyelets. This is not really necessary. It's just kind of an aesthetic, just preference really. But you can put them kind of in the end of your beads, just to see, just to kind of give it a more finished look. I personally kind of like them without it. Just because then you can see that it's a paper bead. But you can do it. So it's really just kind of up to your own personal preference. But if you have some little eyelets, you can definitely do that. You just kind of drop them in there and glue them. Maybe I'll do some that way just so you can kind of see. So then you just need a paper trimmer, and I think that pretty much covers everything that you need to actually do the project. So I'm going to put you on fast forward, and I'm going to start just cutting up my paper strips, and I'll kind of do a voiceover and walk you through this process. Okay, so I'm going to clear off my desk here just a little bit and pull out my paper trimmer. I'm using a bigger paper trimmer because you're going to want to cut these kind of at an angle. So most of the beads that I'm going to be doing I'm cutting them at 3/4 of an inch. And I did some at an inch as well. It's also worth noting here that you can do beads of kind of different shapes and sizes and all kinds of things. You can do cone shapes or even just squares, whatever. I had specific projects in mind when I was cutting these, and so I kind of cut them down to the size that I wanted I wasn't thinking in retrospect I should have done some other kind of sizes so you could have seen those. So let me know if that's something that you're interested in. I can always do a follow-up video with some different kind of shapes and sizes. This is just going to be kind of a basic, just kind of how to roll and finish them. So again, I'm just taking all of these papers and I'm going to trim them down to where the top part is about 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm making them triangle shaped so that at the bottom so I'm just kind of turning the paper so that at one end it's, you know, at the point, and then at the other end it's the 3/4 of an inch or inch. I think these kind of floral papers here I'm doing at 3/4 of an inch. You can kind of see I'm just turning the paper back and forth, making these triangles. That's what's going to give it where it wraps around into that kind of, so that in the middle it's thicker than it is on the edges. But you could certainly do these as square ones. You can even do them flush so that they're like triangle shaped or like cone shaped, I guess. You can, depending on how you cut them, you can even get them so that they look almost more like a ball. You just kind of don't cut them as wide. So you can do long skinny ones. It really just depends on the kind of the look that you're wanting. So, you know, you could even cut them at 1.5 inches if you wanted to. It really, really just depends. That might be a little bit hard to roll, but just kind of depends on your tool. And I forgot to mention this with when I was showing you my tool, but my tool also has 2 different edges so that you can vary the hole, like the size of the hole as well. You can kind of see on both ends here. So I'm just sticking the edge of the paper in here, and then I'm just rolling it kind of tightly around there. You don't want to do it too tight because you need to be able to get it, you know, to slide it off. And this paper is really thick, so I'm actually going to add just a little bit of adhesive as I go here. And you can see I'm just kind of using my index finger and my thumb, and I'm just kind of rolling it around there because you want to kind of keep this, keep adjusting this as you're rolling to make sure that your tip and like this triangle point is going to be right in the center of what you're doing to kind of keep it symmetrical, if that makes sense. So I just kind of do that, and then I put some glue right up to the edge on there, and then I just kind of roll around a couple of times, and that just holds everything down, and then you can just slide it right off. So I'm going to do this next one just the same way. I'm rolling it. I'm going to try and get up closer here so you can kind of see. And I'm just using my fingers here to just arrange this just to make sure that everything is kind of uniform on both sides. And then I'm going to add a little bit more glue here. Again, this paper is kind of thick, so I just went ahead and did that, and I'm going to add glue all the way down to the tip here, and then I'm just going to roll it, just keeping that little triangle point right in the middle as much as possible, and that's just going to give it the best shape when it's finished. And like I said, depending on how you cut the paper, and there's just a lot of different ways that you can do this and a lot of different shapes that you can get. These are the papers that I cut just a little bit longer. These are the ones that I cut at 1 inch. You can see that really just is about as long as I can go with this particular tool. But the process is exactly the same. So I'm just getting it started there, and then I'm rolling it. This one I'm just rolling towards me. And then because this paper is so thick, again, I'm just going to add a little bit of glue here and there. It's really not necessary, but it does keep it from like unwinding. But again, you know, I do like probably the last 2 inches or so, I do want to put some glue on that, and then I just roll it around, and some will kind of leak out. This is a little bit of a messy project, but it does help everything to just stay stuck down. You really want that last little itty bitty tip, that little point, to be nice and secure on there. And so I'm just going to keep rolling these. I have several here, and I can't remember if I finished my thought, but like I said, if you're interested in seeing some like other shapes other than these kind of ones that I'm doing right here, let me know in the comments down below, and I will try to do a follow-up video of, you know, some different shapes and some different ways that you can roll these to get kind of some different looking beads as well. But you can see this process does not take very long at all. So I also, off camera, while I was rolling all of those, I cut some book text as well, just some vintage paper. That's what these are right here. And because I thought that would be really fun to do as well. So one of the things that I'm using here is a crochet hook. This is a really thin one. And I'm just loading my little bead on here, and I'm rolling this through my Versamark ink. Please ignore my ink pad. It's very old and dirty. And then I'm just dipping this down in my embossing powder. Again, this is the ultra thick embossing powder, ultra thick embossing enamel. But you could do this with just regular clear embossing powder if that's what you had, and you could just do one layer, or you could do multiple layers and just build it up to the thickness that you want. So I just have it loaded on there, and then I'm getting my heat tool. And just be careful whenever you're doing this. Obviously, this is a metal crochet hook, so it's going to get really hot. And the embossing powder melts pretty quickly, and you just want to keep like the crochet hook, or you could do a popsicle stick or whatever. You just want to kind of keep it moving the whole time, because you don't want it to be uneven. So as the embossing powder melts, it can like kind of drip sort of look, but the great part about that is that you can really just melt it again and get it in, you know, kind of keep twirling the embossing or the crochet hook or whatever, and get the shape back the way that you want it. This is the reason why I prefer this to using something like Glossy Accents or Dimensional Magic or some other kind of just clear. I think there's Diamond Glaze is another one that you could use. I like being able to do this. I like being able to add multiple coats. I like the fact that it dries right away, and so I don't have to worry about like leaving them overnight or anything like that. I can just do this, and as soon as they're heated up and melted, they're good to go. So this one is the book paper, and you can see how it kind of changed the color. Again, because this is vintage book paper, so you can see the difference between the one that I did and the one that I have yet to do. Like I said, I really do wish I had used one with a smaller font, and I think it will be fun. I have some really large pages, so I think I could get like some pretty thick beads. So I'm going to do some of that as well, but I'm just going to kind of go through here and emboss all of these, just again doing the same process. And I have a little paper towel here so that I can continually just wipe off my crochet hook, just so that doesn't get that sticky embossing ink and the powder on there. It just wipes right off the crochet hook. So that's why I am using it. It's just really convenient, at least for me, for the way that I do this. And then, like I said, you just want to keep the embossing moving. You want to keep the crochet hook. You can kind of see while they're still warm, I can just slide them right off onto my nonstick craft sheet here, and they're totally fine. So I just used the lid for my container, and I'm just dipping it down in there. And then again, if you wanted to build up a really heavy coat, you could just, even while it's still warm, you could just re-dip it. I had to do that in a couple times where maybe I didn't get a good enough coating or whatever. I just dipped it right back into the embossing, and then moved on. So here I'm going to pull out a couple little eyelets, and just so that you can kind of see what these look like. These I think look really good when you're like creating jewelry or whatever, and when you have the little eyelets on there. They're a little bit fiddly for me, so that's why I don't do it very often. And also I like the fact that these are paper beads and that they look like paper. But you could certainly do this if you want another just kind of look, a more polished look. So basically all I'm doing is taking these little eyelets that are the size of the hole that I have. So these are the tiny eyelets. And I am using some adhesive. This is Helmar 450 Quick Dry. And I'm just adding a little tiny dot to the eyelet. And then I'm just dropping it down in the hole. And it will just dry in there. I'm going to do that for both ends. And then I will have a bead that is finished. I also think that if you're going to do this with the eyelets, you really want to make sure you have a pretty good thickness of your bead. And for the size that I'm doing, because I only used like a 6x8 paper pad, so my papers are only 8 inches long, they're not super big. You know, my beads are just not that wide. So it would be better if you had like a 12x12 paper where your bead would actually be a little bit thicker. So here are my finished beads. You can see these are the ones that are the book text, and you can kind of see they aged even more, which I love. I think these are going to be really fun in my journal. I'm so excited about that. And then I have these other ones. This is the one with the eyelets in it. You can kind of see how that looks finished. Again, those would be really good for like jewelry or whatever. Or if you just like that extra finishing touch on there. And then these are the other like little scrapbook paper ones. These are the ones that I cut down to 3/4 of an inch. So they're 3/4 of an inch at one end and then tapering down to a point. And then these are the ones that I did at 1 inch. So that's it for me for this little project. Like I said, if you'd like to see a follow-up with some other shapes, let me know. And if you liked this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And until next time, bye-bye.